Hello, what is going on, dudes? My name's 13 and welcome back to a rambling review, the show where I talk about games that I like because I don't really have anyone to talk to about. Funny enough, this one is a little bit different because both of my friends that I talk regularly with concerning like games and things like that have actually played Baldur's Gate 3. Spare has completed it. Jadric has played about 2 hours with us in like a multiplayer game, but he kept going on ahead, and Spare was having internet issues, so he kept disconnecting, so I was back there with him, and then Jadric would rush ahead, as I already said, and would get caught up in things, and we didn't get very far as a result, and it was very interesting. But funny enough, in that game, I was playing my secondary character, who is a paladin, and I was in the middle of doing the conversation with Lae'zel, and Jadric decided to attack the tieflings, and so, while I did not participate in the actual combat, because they killed them, I still got, met by the Oathbreaker Paladin because I broke my oath because they did not attack me first, so I did not have to have vengeance. Even though I didn't even attack them. It was a very funny scenario. In retrospect, I was actually annoyed at the time. I recently completed my first actual playthrough because I had gotten part of the way through Act 3 before just going on kind of a hiatus from it. Anyways, the first thing I will mention is that Baldur's Gate is an absolutely fantastic game. First things first, what is Baldur's Gate 3? And for those of you who have somehow, I don't know how, not heard of the game of the year of 2023, Baldur's Gate 3 is a D&D, I guess inspired is in quotation marks there, because it's not really inspired, because it takes place in the world of Faerun, which is the default campaign setting for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and I believe editions before that. I don't know if it was 4th edition, I couldn't tell you that. I know at least 5th edition and onwards, it has been the main setting of the Dungeons & Dragons universe. The namesake of it, Baldur's Gate, is a city on the western coast of the continent of Faerun. I'll put up a map. I actually have a map hanging in my bedroom, like an actual like cloth map that is very, very cool, because I'm a D&D nerd. And basically your goal is to get to Baldur's Gate. That is the result, that is the major driving force of the game. There are things that are pointing you that way, along with like your companion quests, as well as the main quest, trying to rid yourself of the parasite, which you learn of immediately, pretty much in the game, and it is your driving force to continue on in the game. Now, it is D&D in the fact that you will roll for things. You have your different boosts, and your inventory is like, it acts like a character sheet, and you see all these things about your different characters and what is boosted and such, and you roll based on what action you are trying to perform. If you're in a dialogue with someone and you're trying to persuade them, you roll for persuasion, and you get your charisma modifier added to that. But also, if you have proficiency in it, you get a double modifier and extra modifiers and things like that. So if you're proficient in a skill, you're better at it. And there are a whole bunch of different like conversational ones, like intimidation, deception, persuasion. You have perception, which will be rolled as you go across into random dungeons and little areas, and that'll be rolled to check for traps and things like that, more so than anything else. Perception, like a D&D, when you're actually playing a tabletop game, is more of what extra things you notice outside of the little environmental details, which you're not having described to you because you can see them, which is an interesting thing. It's also D&D in the fact that you have all the classes in the normal D&D 5th edition, and you can also install a whole bunch of mods that will add extra classes and things like that, which I have not tried. Not too much of an interest to try, but it's very, very cool that the modding community is as vibrant as it is, and I'll talk more about mods in a little bit. Because I used a lot of mods in my playthrough. My main playthrough ended about more than 70 hours. I don't remember exactly what the playtime is. I'd have to go look at it. Maybe I'll go back into the game and take a little screenshot of it, because I still might continue my second playthrough, which I had to do to get some of the clips from the early part of the game. Because I did actually have a bunch of clips from part 1 and part 2 that I ended up deleting because I thought I would never make this video because I stopped playing Baldur's Gate 3 and I didn't finish the game, but it was hanging over my head for such a long time, and I don't remember why I quit, because it's fan-fucking-tastic game. There's one thing I will talk about. This is like, I guess in the gameplay section we can go on it, is that I am not much of a fan of D&D combat. So I come to this game from the experience of being the dungeon master, because basically in order to play D&D, I had to be a dungeon master because there weren't enough people that I was with that were wanting to or willing to be a dungeon master and whatnot. So I've had one campaign to be like a player, but that one kind of fizzled out. I don't remember why realistically, but it was with some former high school classmates, and it was after we had graduated, so it wasn't during high school. It would have been awesome to be able to do something like that during high school, but the second group that I started, I decided to be Dungeon Master because I had an idea for a campaign I wanted to do set in the world of Drakkenheim, which was a Kickstarter that I participated in because I was really, really intrigued by it, and I love all the extra stuff they added to it, and it's really, really cool. And it kind of ended up that my main playthrough character of Baldur's Gate 3, Ryan Le Grim, who is a tiefling monk, ended up being a lot like the monk that was introduced in the Drakkenheim expansion, which isn't really an official expansion. It's just kind of it's a module made by a different group, where you kind of got an extra spell. You could attack multiple times and use one of those to do a spell and something like that. And it was really fun. I really, really like my Ryan Le Grim, which was a character I created initially for Baldur's Gate because I didn't really want to make my typical bard character who was the only play character that I've ever done as a player. Celeste Declane, and who was a bard, represented. It was inspired by me at the time, as well as Paulton from Dice Camera Action, which I will mention a little bit later as well, because Dice Camera Action is very important to my D&D history, but I didn't end up wanting to do him. Eventually, maybe I'll do some sort of bard, but it kind of sucks that there's no bard party character. At least there is now, because they patched her in, a character who is a bard, a tiefling bard, at a different point in the game that you can actually recruit, and it would make sense to recruit into your party. But anyways, I digress. This is the whole rambling review thing, because I don't remember where I was in my notes. So I come to this game from a dungeon master's perspective, where I like to have encounters planned out. I don't really like running combat. When I was a player, I was never that interested in doing the combat. It didn't help that as a bard, you're not all that useful in actually doing the fighting part. You're better to help out your teammates and whatnot. So combat was never very interesting because I was unable to do very much to help in a lot of situations. I could give boost and whatnot, but if my friends, the other characters, the other party members don't really need the boost when it comes to the fighting, it kind of feels like a waste. And aside from that, I'm not so creative when it comes to actually doing fighting as like a player on top of that. So there's a massive part of Baldur's Gate 3, which is the combat. There is a lot of fighting. You will be doing a lot of fighting wherever you go, because typically you're either able to resolve something by picking a dialogue choice and succeeding on a roll, or you're gonna have to fight. And I'm not the biggest fan of fighting, and in this game it ended up being tedious having to control a bunch of different characters, and there would be time in random things where it would lag. It would just be like the camera stuck in one place as like a character struggles to finish their actions, which happened even before I had mods in, by the way, but mods are definitely part of the problem eventually. The perspective is a bit weird in the fact that you're kind of like sort of top down, but not really. You're a 3/4 perspective. You can do top down. The top down is really only useful for when it comes to battles, as it makes things on ledges and things like that difficult to see, and the behind the camera, behind the player perspective is very strange because of how high up the camera sits by default. So even if you like zoom all the way in, you're still like a decent ways up on the character. So the perspective is hard to get used to, and the movement, the clicking on things is not a problem. One thing I hate is that you can't like retcon a turn or something like that. So like because in a D&D thing, it's like a lot of it, you don't actually act out something on a board. Most of the time you can play with a board. Most of the time I'm thinking you're going to play theater of the mind with maybe a map. And so if you want to do something, you say, actually, I want to do something different. That's like, okay, that's fine. In Baldur's Gate 3, you cannot undo your movement. So if you waste any bit of movement, you cannot get it back. And I do not like that. I feel like 3 years after its release, that should not still be a thing, because you should just be able to click a button and undo your entire turn and be able to go back, and specifically if you're still in the character's turn, not if you're going ahead in turns and you whatnot. It would make sense, like if you click you move a character here and it's like, oh shit, I didn't actually want to do that, I put them in a bad spot or whatever, you can undo that and then redo that character's movement or redo that character's turn. I think that would be very useful, but the controls in the game are kind of annoying. I think it would be really, really nice if I had the ability to not do RTS controls where I had to click on the board where I wanted my characters to go, because there's a lot of times where I'm trying to get to a specific place and the level will jump up or whatever. When I went to the Underdark in my second playthrough, and my characters walk through the illusory wall that's there in the Zentrum hideout, the camera just decided it was gonna go to the fucking moon, and it was like completely it was so difficult for me to do anything, because I'm like, well, I can't see where I am, and I would have to always double click back on my characters to get them back into a spot where I could do it, and every time I would go near the illusory wall, I would send myself up to the moon, and it was really annoying. So like, at times like that, that's when the camera movement absolutely sucks. And sometimes there'll be like, because of that, there will also be someone that's hidden because of perspective and that you can't see based on your perspective specifically. Your characters can technically see them, but in perspective you cannot see them, and it's annoying. It's also a bit too easy to miss attacks, in a sense of you don't roll bad, but you just misclick where the attack goes. Because there was a couple times where like I would click on an enemy, and the hitbox being not very generous on it makes it so it's like very much the hitbox is just their character model. It's not like a box around it. So if you have to like be very specific where you click, because even if you're like, maybe you make a micro adjustment as you click and you go to the left side of it, you could just straight up attack the air next to him, do no damage, literally no damage whatsoever. And it's that was annoying. I had to get used to that, and I did that quite often in my first part of my first playthrough. That was a major issue that I had. That took a bit of getting used to, but it's annoying that that's the sort of thing. You should not just be able to attack the air. You should have to actually be able to attack something very specific. I think that would be a very, very useful change. I don't know if they're going to make any more patches like that 3 years into the game's life, but I don't know. I think that and the movement canceling thing, I think those would be very, very useful changes to make. But it was just, combat kind of felt tedious. So I ended up using, we'll go into the mod section here, because the mods, there's so many different mods. I ended up using a mod that basically, one was the cheater spell scroll, where you had the spell scroll and you can literally do basically whatever the heck you want. I pretty much only used it to open up the tutorial chest over and over again to be able to get these armor, like ball armor things, which were basically gave you obscene strength and let you, with an unarmed attack, just literally insta-kill everything in the game, which was very nice, because it made combat less of a big deal, because that was not what I wanted. I loved the exploring, the story building, the talking to all your companions and getting to know their stories and things like that, and was not that much of a fan of having to constantly fight. And it made the combat much simpler, so I ended up enjoying it a lot more. God, Karlach is so fucking cool. It's less, I think it takes less time to do battles in Baldur's Gate 3 than it would in like a normal D&D campaign setting, but I mean, I guess it depends on the encounter. But there are some times where you're sitting there for like 20 minutes in a fight, even with the busted stuff, because there's a bunch of enemies you have to fight and whatnot, and I actually got stuck initially in the game. And this was my first break from the game, was the goblin lair. I forget what exactly it's called, but where you have to, in Act 1, where you have to go fight the goblins, or you don't have to, but it's either you save the druid enclave. I don't remember what their actual word for is, but the basically the home where all the druids are, and you can either save them or doom them. I ended up picking the save option, and I ended up losing a character because of that I didn't know was a possible recruitable character. because I didn't know the proper steps to do it, because you have to do proper steps to do it, because of course this character seemed like a random boss, and that's kind of what they were, but being Minthara, if you haven't noticed, Minthara seems to be like a cult favorite amongst the Baldur's Gate community. She's a drow paladin who is not, which is kind of funny. Actually, that's what my second character ended up being. That's actually really funny. I'm kind of, this is again, the rambling review thing. I'm drifting into characters when I'm trying to talk about the gameplay and things like that. But basically, I used those mods to be able to finish the, because I kept losing in this fight that I didn't want to do, but I had to do this specific fight in order to finish the mission, and I could not do anything otherwise, and I had to finish it because I was stuck. I was like in the middle on the rafters above everything, and so I had to fight my way out. There was no other option for me to get out, because at that point we're not very high level, so it was a lot of trouble for me to get out of there, and I got myself stuck in an unfortunate situation, and it was not that fun. I ended up using mods that made things easier and made us better, and then I just installed some more mods from there, and I have we'll drift into mods here because this is interesting, but as I mentioned, the mods, it makes me think of Skyrim, because I mean Skyrim has the most mods. Like if you go to like Nexus mods or whatever, Skyrim has the most mods out of literally any game. In second place is the non-special edition of Skyrim. So like there are so many mods for Skyrim, but the amount of mods that you can install for Baldur's Gate 3 reminds me of that, because the game has its own built-in mod manager where you can go and you can find these mods and you can install them, and it's great. There are so many different mods that range from, you know, very much like nonchalant things like you can remove the weight of gold, even though I never installed that mod, like even with the amount of gold that I had, because of the armor that I had, it gave me such high strength that my carry weight was huge, so I didn't have to worry about that. Something as innocuous as that, all the way up to a little bit more naughty mods. Like there was a mod where you could install to make the penis sizes of the guys bigger. I will not show that on the screen for obvious reasons, but that is a mod that exists that I found while I was scrolling through, and I thought that was funny. But I had like 20 something total mods installed. Nothing were all that major. There was a couple cosmetic ones. There was like 2 different cosmetics mods that most of the time did not work, because they would conflict with the mesh, or they just would not show when you try to put the outfit on a character. They would just like give you like a default underwear print if you put it on your character instead of the dress or whatever it was supposed to be. I'll actually take a clip of that, because trying to click on different things and try to see if they work, and then they just don't work, and it's like annoying. But yeah, there were a couple of mods that I don't know if I even actually used. One of the mods I found, which is really cool, because of a thing that I missed with one of the characters, is the polyamory fix mod or whatever. So basically you can adjust things as you see fit when it comes to like the relationships. I was able to basically get everybody's relationship mostly to max. The only ones I didn't bother were with Jaheira and Minsk. I'll talk about those a little bit later. Everyone else, pretty much, I was able to get naturally to the top, except for Astarion, because I would always pick things that are not what he likes, because he and I do not think the same, and I am very much the good guy. It makes me feel bad to even be mean to video game characters, so every time I would pick something, he would not be happy with it, and for a while Shadowheart was also not happy with what I picked, and it made sense, but I was able to naturally build up those the relationships just by spending the time with the characters. But then there was I did something out of order with Karlach in being unable to romance her. I don't remember what I did accidentally. I think I did one of her quests, possibly before finding her or something like that, or did part of a quest or something. I forget exactly what it was. I had to basically use that mod to fix that and allow me to do that, which was awesome. I don't know if it was possible that it was a bug, but it was also possible that I missed a trigger or something like that, because I found Karlach very late of Act 1, because I realized that, could I have found her already? Oh, I could have. Where is she? oh, she's down there. The one path that I did not, one of the two paths I didn't take. The other one, funny enough, was where, yeah, I guess we've kind of merged into characters now, but the other one I've talked about, or not talked about, but the other character that I did not find was Lae'zel, and I have no idea how. I genuinely have no idea how. She's literally around the corner from Gale. This is my reaction, actually, in my second playthrough of finding where she was. How did I not find her my first time around? She is around the corner from where I just found Gale. She's around the corner from Gale, and somehow I never found where she was. And I didn't realize that, and then I went back later after I completed a different quest, and she was gone, of course, because that's what happens. And then you can't ever recruit her again, because you find her dead in Act 2, if you do not recruit her at the beginning, which was slightly disappointing, but after actually having played some with Lae'zel, I don't think I missed much, because I don't really like her already. But that's besides the point. But when it comes to the characters, the characters are very varied, and they have so many voice lines. There's so much. There's so much talking. There's so much little banter that goes back and forth between them on the streets. It's awesome. There's so much personality built into these characters. The voice casted phenomenally. Every single character is different in like a very meaningful way, and they all aren't just total good guys to be good guys, which is really nice. I was able to fill that role, which was fine. But my favorite character is Karlach by a pretty large margin. There's something I just felt like, it reminded me, this is gonna seem weird to some people, but it reminded me of Aerith, and the fact that during the course of Final Fantasy VII, she's so optimistic, so much so much personality, and so much just driving energy driving her forward in a way that it doesn't seem like she's bothered by anything. But there's a lot of things that despite the fact that she knows she has this fake heart that is like overheating because she is in the normal Forgotten Realms rather than in Avernus and whatnot, that she is scared. She feels hollow at avenging her goal, eventually reaching Baldur's Gate, and what you do to reach your goal. She feels hollow because of that, and I kind of love that her story does not wrap up until literally the very end, right after you beat the final boss, which I will not. I mean, I could show that. I didn't show the final boss, but I could show the bit of the ending with Karlach. It's so fucking metal. Like, I absolutely adore it.
Well, soldier, here we are. It worked. My engines calmed down. I shouldn't have let you come here. This isn't going to be easy, you know. Zariel's going to come at us with everything she's got. Gods, like clockwork. They'll be on us soon, but there's just enough time. Thought I was done with these.
It's Hellboy.
But then, there was you.
Oh my god, this is so fucking rad.
Imps are fast, but careless. Don't let them tire you out, just get rid of them. And don't forget, you asked for this. Better let these fuckers know I'm back. And this time, I'm not alone.
Oh my god, it's so rad. She's just such a well-rounded character, and her voice actress does such a good job. Samantha Baert. She does such a good job voicing Karlach. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, every single one of the characters, every single character in the game is unique, and they're all good for they're all great, like, performances. Like, just because I don't like Minthara and Lazel, that doesn't mean that their performances were bad, because they did a good job in portraying the character they were intended to be, and it's really good. Every single character in the game is just, it is the kind of like ideal D&D adventuring party. You have characters who are flawed, and you have those characters in the sense, even though it's technically just like the scripting of how these characters play as if they are flawed characters. And then you have these moments where you get to talk to characters after something happens and have a little bit of a back and forth and a discussion about them and of what happened and then what the next steps are and things like that. And it's awesome. It feels like you were in a D&D party and you were talking to your D&D party about something, or you're talking to about a character about their backstory. And they did a really, really good job in making that super organic. And the fact that they have millions of lines of dialogue is what it feels like. It might be millions of lines of dialogue from overall, like you combine the characters and then the people throughout the city, and then the characters' interactions with other characters, like non-player characters. And it's a ridiculous amount of world building that they are able to do. And like, this game is so special because there are things I played for almost 80 hours. I think I'm pretty sure that's where my first file actually ended, when I beat the final boss. And then I get these shorts recommended to me. I don't remember exactly who the author is, but these events that I have never seen in this game. And I've only done one playthrough, and I don't know how many more I plan to do, other than maybe 2, completing my first one, and then the second one, which I started to get clips for this video, which, as you haven't noticed, there's been 2 different characters. One is a Drow Paladin, which is a character that came from D&D, and then I put it into this game that came from the same campaign that I used Ryan as my DMPC. I didn't even talk about that part, but Ryan, my monk, became a DMPC. I have two different characters throughout the course of this, but with all the extra things and all these little caveats that lead to different things. Like, there's one where Gale becomes a god because of using a specific item that helps you win the game and whatnot, and that's a possibility for him to do. But on my playthrough, he decided not to. I don't remember if I convinced him otherwise to do that or what, but I let him make the choice basically at the end. Astarian ascending to becoming a full vampire. I don't know how the fuck you're supposed to do that, but I never couldn't figure out how that was a thing. It's not like I'm like dying to try these sort of things, but there's so much in this game. There are so many things that you can put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in this game and probably still not see everything, because there's always going to be some interaction that you just missed with a specific character and whatnot. But the attention to detail is incredible, and the characters are unique and they're funny, and oh my god, Minsk is so funny, dude. Holy shit. You know, he's one of the last characters you can recruit in the game, and he's so fucking funny, because I accidentally stumbled onto where he was. I had been having to look for him for a while, and I happened to stumble upon where he was. I was caught completely off guard because I did not bring the character that I needed, Jaheira, in order to... You could technically recruit him without Jaheira, but you needed... Jaheira has a specific voice line if you bring her into that fight, and I'm like, oh shit. And so he was able to detect us because he has the tadpole like every other character, and you have to succeed on a 25 stealth roll or something like that in order to stay hidden, and to convince him that he's just imagining things. And I'm like, I literally ran out of my inspirations, and my last roll I got the nat 20. This was my reaction. Alright, last try. Nat 20. Oh! Yes! Let's go!
Well, perhaps I only needed to sneeze.
And on that note, pleasure. Look for word from the Guildhall.
But it was so funny that, like, things like that are so fun. It was a completely inconsequential moment for the fact that I just wanted to make sure that I had Jahir on the team in order to make sure that I didn't fuck anything up with recruiting him, because I thought I was going to go through the entire game. I had put initially in my script that I'm like, I never found Minsk, and then it's like I just happened to stumble into Minsk because I clicked on a random door on accident while trying to navigate. I don't know if I was on accident. I think I clicked it because I thought it was something that I had already explored, because I had walked by it a couple times, but I did not explore it, and it was very funny. But Minsk is so funny. Matt Mercer does such a good job as Minsk. It's so funny. A man that intelligent playing someone as stupid as Minsk is incredible.
This is Boo.
Oh
And
my
Boo,
goodness.
Meet you. No, it is a hamster. A miniature giant space hamster. Fear not, you will learn the difference in time. Those villains locked Boo away, lest his righteous gaze cause their tadpole to flee in terror.
I think there's so much that I could say about this game, and if I sat here for like an hour, I could probably still keep talking about things. I have a couple more things that I do want to add though, but this game makes me start thinking about things, and then it leads into other things that happen during the playthrough, and it just kind of, that's how the game is. Like, the exploration and having to do something leads you to, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? And it's really fun to discover things and to be able to find things out. I really enjoyed the exploration aspect of the game. Coming from normal, quote-unquote, Dungeons and Dragons where you're playing around, around a table, in quotes, with people, it's weird in the sense to have, every once in a while you'll have this narrator who chimes in at other moments and will tell you some things about what's going on, what you see, and whatnot. And it is interesting for the fact that you can kind of see what is happening without needing the narrator's perspective. And it is kind of weird to have the narrator in some cases. I do get, because there is actually like a facial animations mod that someone has in the marketplace where you can install that and have more facial animations. I actually really like the little quirks of the animations that they did. I also feel like it's a little bit disrespectful to have a facial animations mod to be tacked on as a mod compared to how much effort that team put into animating everything, because there were people on a random short that thought the animation was mocap, and I'm like, are you serious? I thought that was really funny, but the narrator is kind of like a weird aspect of the game. I get it makes sense. There's a couple of spots where it does make sense to have the narrator explain some things, because maybe an expression on this person's face or something like that isn't totally noticeable by just looking at them because of the sort of quote-unquote rudimentary facial animations. It is kind of strange because normally you would have your DM explaining everything that you see in front of you, because that is what you need in order to make your decisions in the game. And sometimes I feel like, I know that you literally cannot do this. This is impossible to do. But having the different specific dialogue options where you have to pick something that you're saying, whether or not it be deception, intimidation, persuasion, it is not as fun because of the fact that you don't have the agency to decide what the character says to try to do this action. You just get to pick the action very specifically. And in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't take away from it, but it does take away a bit of player agency. Now, I fully understand it is completely impossible to have something like Dungeons and Dragons where you can say literally whatever you want and then have your dungeon master interpret it. And that is one of the reasons that I tried to say that earlier that Baldur's Gate 3 was inspired by D&D rather than was a D&D game, because it's not really D&D. It's as close as you can realistically get in a video game form, and it's a beautiful game. I absolutely enjoyed my time and absolutely adore the game. And I just started, when I made the second playthrough to start, I kind of didn't mention this, but the second character was the character that I played in our multiplayer game. When I started playing back through to get the clips for the video, I just started playing the game for fun, and I spent the entire night doing it. I'm like, oh shit, because I was going to play a different game, but I was really enjoying my time, even though I had played all that. It had been a long time since I had gone through that specific part of the game, but it's just such a fun game to explore. And it's also really cool when, based on your class, you can pick a different option, even though it doesn't quite make you think of what would a paladin say in this case. It's like this is what a paladin would say in this case, and it's like, it's cool. I like the different options that you have based if you have like a different class or whatever. So I kind of didn't talk about this in my script. I thought that I did. I definitely wrote down about it, but I guess that I didn't end up actually talking about it. But I did want to mention the music, because for some reason that didn't come up. That wasn't always the first thing I thought about when it came to Baldur's Gate 3, because a lot of the times you don't hear music. You'll have, every once in a while, you'll have something crescendo in during an exploration moment that's just like this beautiful, peaceful background music, which is what I mostly associated this game with. And then I remembered a couple of the things, but you'll hear a lot of the music in the background. But the main theme of the game that you hear during the character creation is Down by the River, which uses the same motif throughout the entirety of, basically the entirety of the game, as most of the songs have this motif in it, and it's a really beautiful motif, which like, that's the motif, and it happens in pretty much every single one of the songs, with the vocal tracks too. That's something that happens a lot. But Down by the River was the first one that I learned of. There's obviously the Power, which is the song that plays at the very end. I didn't actually know the name of it until like just now, but it popped into my head and I'm like, what is the name of that one? Because my favorite song, and it's because of the ambiance it has in that specific fight, is realistically the fight against, which is technically, it's a spoiler. I will say this: you can skip to the time code that I will put on the screen here if you want to skip this part, because this is a fight that you don't have to do. Yeah, you had your chance to skip, but the fight is against Raphael when you go to hell and you steal the Orphic hammer, the hammer that's to free Orpheus. I think Orphic hammer is what it's called, where you go and you steal that, where you have to actually fight him before you're allowed to escape. Is such a ridiculously cool song, and the ambiance of it so unbelievably cool. But there's a whole bunch of good songs in this. I'll play the 3 that I've mentioned here, and then I recommend you go check out Borislav Slavov, who is the composer of all this shit, because they're such good songs, because it's cool that he himself uploaded all of the music. Yeah, go listen to the music.
Lives, oh mortal lives, expire. Souls go to their dooms in flame forevermore.
Oh, this song is so fucking cool.
Lace your heart with mine. Let your sleeping soul take flight. Take me through the night. Down, down, down by the river. Down, down, down by the river. Hanging moon in fog. Mist will lead where you belong. Sweep me off my feet. Down, down, down by the river.
I don't really know if I have all that much to say without like stepping on my own toes and reiterating things and having to cut this around more than I even intend to, because the idea of it's supposed to be like stream of consciousness, me talking about a game that I like, because I'm not a professional game reviewer and I don't want to be. I just like talking about games. Baldur's Gate 3 is obscenely fun, and it's an absolutely fantastic game, and it's a game that if you are able to play it and you can possibly run it on your computer or anything like that, it is an absolutely worthwhile time. It's a great stepping stone to get into Dungeons & Dragons, to learning more about it in the world and whatnot, because it's just, Dungeons & Dragons is a fantastic game, and the idea of it, just building a story with your friends. You can argue about the mechanics of Dungeons & Dragons as much as you want, which Baldur's Gate does change a few of those. There's a great video by XP to Level 3 that talks about some of the changes made between Baldur's Gate 3 and the Dungeons & Dragons official rules and things like that, and things that he likes and dislikes. I think it's a fantastic video to watch if you're interested in learning more about that. But it's a great game that helps you get to learn how the game works, and is a lot of fun. I also like that they just give you revivify spells, so you can just revive people pretty much very easily, which is awesome, because revivify is normally an extremely high level and extremely expensive spell, but having the ability to just revive a character if you lose a character because you fuck up, it's awesome, because every single character that you get to play and have on your team will come with a revivify spell. And so I had a shitload of those at the end because I never had to use them, luckily. But actually, that's not true. I did have to. I think it was one or two times on my player character, because there was a temple in Act 2. I think it was related to Shadowheart, where there's like this maze that really annoying, and then I jumped and I missed something and it just insta-killed me, and so I had to use the Revivify to pick myself back up, which was kind of funny. It wasn't funny at the time. Looking back on it, it's funny, but now, back then I was very upset by it.
Shahira,
What is he wearing?
it's best to explain, but I still do not understand your anger.
Do not hide behind your hamster, Ranger. You do not understand because you do not listen.
When it offers buttocks for this,
Why is he wearing Orin's armor?
Cheek with hand.
Did I give him something on accident? That's really funny. It does. Oh, no way, dude. It's a great substitute for Dungeons & Dragons. If you are unable to play Dungeons & Dragons with people and a group, and you just want to experience Dungeons & Dragons, honestly, Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the closest you're gonna get to it, because it is a lot of fun. Like, every little play session you play for like 3 hours or something like that, even if you don't complete a lot, that's like a session of D&D. It is a pretty solid substitute, and it's like a great entry point into Dungeons & Dragons. I think that's something that is so good about Baldur's Gate 3, is that you have a less stressful way to get into Dungeons & Dragons. You can learn the ropes. You can play on the easiest difficulty like I did, just because I don't really like the combat, or having obscenely difficult combat, because a lot of times that just makes things feel unfair, and I don't really like that. I prefer to have the story aspect to it, and to feel like you are the character that is meant to, quote unquote, save this world or whatever, be the character of the story that you're supposed to be. And it's a great way for people to get into it. So, like, I think if you look at it and you think you would like it, then I think you would.
The hamster that voyaged through wild space. The fury of a bird.
That's a bit of a bug that happens with my massive party size.
Spectacular specimens.
Anyways, this was very much a rambling review, less structured than the other ones, I think. But I genuinely recommend, if you can, play Baldur's Gate 3. It's awesome. It's a great game, deserves all the praise that it's gotten. It's so unique. There's so many things you can do to it. After working on this video, dude, it just kind of like hit me as I'm finishing it up. This game is something unbelievably special, and I don't know what else to say about that. I think that's how I should end this video. This game is unbelievably special and has earned a place up near the top.